Hi everyone, my name's Andy. This is a reaction video. This one was sent to me by CJ. So CJ, thank you for sending me this video. It's got to be fun. It's by Queer Theology. Jesus is polyamorous. All right, it's a good one, CJ.
Jesus is polyamorous. Yeah, you heard me right. Jesus is polyamorous. We know this already, though, even if we don't think about it or put it in those terms. If you're one of those Christians who believes in the importance of a personal relationship with Jesus, well, Jesus is having personal relationships with billions of other people, too. He's kind of a relationship slut. An empowered, reclaimed sort of slut. Hey there, I'm Brian G. Murphy. I'm one of the co-founders of Theology.com. I'm a Christian, and I'm polyamorous. I'm also kind of a slut. The reclaimed, empowering kind of slut. Like Jesus. Jesus' polyamory goes beyond this personal relationship idea, though. It's deeper, biblical even. In Ephesians 5, Paul specifically uses the word marriage to describe Christ's relationship with us. Repeatedly, Paul reminds us that Jesus gave himself for us. Us, the church, which Paul describes as the whole body of believers. In this marriage, Jesus isn't married to one person, he's married to the entire body of believers. Jesus is in a pansexual, polyamorous relationship with us. And so, of course, Christians can be polyamorous. That's a biblical model of relationship. We already recognize that God's love for us isn't diminished by God's love for others, and that each of us can have a unique, transcendent relationship with the divine. Our relationship with God can be a model for our romantic and sexual relationships as well. You know how you feel when something good happens to someone you care about? When your friend, child, neighbor, or coworker connects with the divine? That's how I feel when my partners date or meet someone new or are just head over heels for someone else. How beautiful, how majestic that they get to have more love in their life. And how exciting that someone else gets to experience the amazingness of my partner. The word polyamory comes from poly and amorous, many loves. We all already have many loves. The question then becomes, how do you express that love? With whom? How do you do life? We want to help you sort through those questions. Is polyamory for me? How do I share with my church community that I'm in a polyamorous relationship? How do I talk with my partner about wanting an open relationship? How do I integrate polyamory with my faith? If you want to explore the intersections of polyamory and Christianity, or you want some hands-on support in your own life and relationships, head on over to queertheology.com/polyamory. We've got some resources up now and we'll be continuing to add to them. You can also sign up for updates to be in the loop as we add more. We see in Ephesians an understanding that marriage can be polyamorous, that Jesus is polyamorous with us, and so we know that it's possible. Of course, we also see other types of relationships in Scripture, some healthier than others, and no one has to be polyamorous. But it's one way of structuring relationships, and it can be a deeply faithful one. And so it is.
Okay, wow, CJ. That was quite an amazing video. Uh, I did assume that he would go where he went, that scripture speaks of Christ being the groom to the church, which is made up of multiple people, being his bride. Uh, that imagery in no way implies that we must have sexual union then with Jesus in heaven. Not whatsoever. There's a good bit in scripture that would indicate that's definitely not the case, because scripture, again, multiple times teaches marriages between a man and a woman. Polygamy is forbidden in scripture, although a lot of the people in the Old Testament had multiple wives, and there's indication in the New Testament with the stipulation for who should be an elder or an overseer in the church to be the husband of but one wife. So clearly that practice was still in some way intact in the first century, and the church finally puts an end to that as a normal practice in the New Testament. Scripture's clear. One man, one wife. One man, one woman, right? For wife. There's other things in scripture that indicate that we're not having sexual relations in heaven, and that's Jesus' own words when people ask about, what about the woman who has had multiple husbands in her life? And in the example given to Jesus, it was a lady whose husbands had died and then she remarried, died, remarried, and they want to know, who's going to have her in heaven? And his answer is, in heaven you won't marry. You won't be given in marriage. You'll be like the angels and you won't procreate. So in heaven we're not procreating and we're not being given in marriage. So it's just imagery that we're given, the type of relationship that we have with Jesus. It is not a consummated through sexual relations marriage that we're going to have. Other things that would also go against this would be that Scripture clearly forbids homosexual relations in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and says very clearly in Romans 1 that such relations come from sinful desires, sinful lust, and that they're not natural to God's order of creation. Since heaven will be a recreation and restoration of how God intended creation to be, minus the sexual relations and procreation, it would be wrong then to say that Jesus will be having homosexual relations in heaven. It would be wrong then to say that he will have multiple wives, multiple spouses. Also, Scripture forbids incest. At a certain point, it forbids incest in the Levitical law. So, since the church is a family and has that language, it would be wrong then of Jesus to marry in that way. Big problem here is that he's conflating as well sex and love. He's almost acting as if to be able to truly love someone, you must have sexual relations with them. And that's just clearly not true. I love my mom doesn't mean I have sex with her. That's insane. This guy's lifestyle is insane. It leads to nothing but destruction and ruin. And the facts are very clear on this if you follow the CDC on such things, such physical repercussions of such lifestyles. CJ, thanks for this unbelievable video. Can't even believe people believe this stuff.